Okay, tonight I think will be the final in-between Mincha with the parish of Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky on the Haggadah. We'll try to leave off with a couple of inspiring messages that he has to say about the Dayenu and the ideas that come up. One of the things that it says in Dayenu is that that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if he would have taken us, he would have provided us with our needs in the midbar, but not given us the man, the special bread from Shemayim. So Dayenu. Then it writes, if he would have fed us the man, the special bread min Shemayim, and not given us Shabbos, then Dayenu, that would have been enough. So he has a beautiful idea about the man. We know that in the Torah we have a Machlokes between Korach and Moshe Rabbeinu. Korach claims that he deserves power and he deserves leadership just like Moshe Rabbeinu does. Moshe is taking everything for himself. He's taking it for his family. There's nepotism that's going on. And he challenges Moshe Rabbeinu basically to a showdown. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, no problem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, let's bring an offering, a fire offering. And whoever HaKadosh Baruch Hu burns up, so then that will be the end of them. And whoever HaKadosh Baruch Hu finds favor in their eyes, it'll be accepted by the Rebbeinu Shalom. So you have to think, if your name is Korach and you're fighting against Moshe Rabbeinu, and everything that Moshe Rabbeinu has said comes true up until this point in history, you're pretty much foolish to actually take him up on the offer. Yet Korach took him up on the offer, and we know the rest is history. That was the end of Korach, Veidasav, and all of his men. So Rabbi Chaim asked, or somebody asked Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky the following question. If they had to prove that Moshe was greater than Korach, or Korach was greater than Moshe, so he said there's a much easier way to do it than to make this entire destruction of Korach and the ground opening up and swallowing them up and everything. We know that when the man fell, min hashamayim, when the man fell from the heavens, so the greater tzaddik that you were, so the closer the man fell to your house. The less of a tzaddik you were, the farther the man fell from your house. So he asked Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, why don't we just have that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will go to the house of Moshe Rabbeinu. The man will fall very close to Moshe Rabbeinu's house. The man will fall farther away, probably from Korach's house, and that way we'll know that Moshe Rabbeinu is right and Korach is wrong. And that way you save the lives, you save all the drama, all the destruction, and it will be much easier. So he says a very important answer. He says like this: Korach was getting involved in Machlokes in an argument, and he said when somebody's making a Machlokes, making an argument with somebody else, they'll find any excuse in the world to try to prove that they are right and the other person is wrong, even when all the facts are staring them in the face that they are wrong and the other person is right. And he says that even if you bring them evidence that they're wrong, no matter what, they'll come up with 1,000 excuses why they still feel that they are right. So they would have said to Korach, you see, the manna fell closer to Moshe Rabbeinu than to you, so it must be that Moshe is a bigger tzaddik than you are. So he would have said, no, you know why it fell closer to Moshe and farther away from me? Because I didn't fight Moshe Rabbeinu enough. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is angry with me. That's why he made it fall farther away from me. So he says that Machlokes is such a terrible thing. When a person starts up with somebody else, they will never, to a great extent, they will never ever be able to be Maida ala emes, to admit to the truth. And therefore he says the only way that they could solve the dispute between Korach and Moshe Rabbeinu over here was to offer the incense offering. Okay, then it says in the Haggadah that if Hashem would have brought us Kevenu Lifnei Har Sinai, V'lo nasan lanu es haTorah, but he would have not given us the Torah, Dayenu, V'ilu nasan lanu es haTorah, he would have given us the Torah, V'lo yichnisu la'aretz Yisrael, but not brought us to Eretz Yisrael, Dayenu. So I want to end off with two ideas, now that we're in Sfiras HaOmer, and we're heading from Pesach into the time that we're getting ready for Ma'amad Har Sinai, for Shavuos, two beautiful ideas that he says about the Torah. So Chaim Kanievsky often said that how is it possible that a masmid, someone who's diligent in his studies, how is it possible that he has so much time to learn so much Torah? Meaning we all have the same amount of time, there's 24 hours in a day. And You have many people that are trying to sit and learn Torah. But you find by Masmidim, those people that are diligent and they are constant in their learning, they somehow are able to learn much more. So he said, do they have more hours in the day? How does it work? So he says, it's not that they have more hours, and they have the same 24 hours as you and I. He says, but the ratzon, the desire that they have, the will that they have to learn and to learn and to learn, catapults them and motivates them to continue learning through thick and thin in all hours of the day. And he says, therefore, that a person who wants to learn will actually find the time in his life to learn everything that is possible within his grasp to be able to learn. And if you want, you have a strong runs and a strong desire to learn Torah, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give such a person special siyata d'shemaya. He'll give them special heavenly assistance that either they'll understand things quicker, or they'll be able to retain things on an easier way, or their mind will be able to go deep, deep into the learning in ways that takes other people, who knows, maybe days or hours or whatever to get in there. He'll have special siyata d'shemaya. And he says in the pasuk in the Chumash says, Loi b'shamayim hi. The Torah, it's so exciting over here today. Yeah, it's Loi b'shamayim hi. The Torah is not in the heavens. What does that mean? Loi b'shamayim hi, the Torah is not in the heavens. It's right here. It's right here for a person to access if they want. And he said over that the Vilna Gaon, who only lived a few generations ago, the Vilna Gaon knew the entire Torah backwards and forwards. He knew it by heart, by pen. He said, Rav Chaim said, this shows that a person, even in our time, if he has a lot of diligence and tremendous hasmah that keeps going strong, so then a person will be able to master and learn all of the Torah in their life if they so desire. So there's only one Rav Chaim Kanievsky, but he lived these words. His diligence in Torah study was beyond what a human being could fathom, and his knowledge was beyond what a human being could fathom. And I heard in one of the Hesped, in one of the eulogies for him, that it was known that he was not a genius, and it was known that he didn't have a photographic memory, and yet he knew everything that he learned, and he didn't forget a single thing. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him such siyata d'shemaya, such heavenly assistance, that with all of the effort and all that he put in and all the hours of diligence, every single day of his life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu opened up his brains to be able to learn more than anybody could imagine learning in one single year of their life, and to retain it with nearly a photographic memory that there was nothing. His children said that they used to play a game with him on Shabbos. There was a certain sefer, I don't remember the name of the sefer, that in that sefer brings down all different statements from Chazal, or different ideas that are mentioned different places in Tanakh and Chazal, and in that particular sefer it brings down sources where you could find those ideas. So on Shabbos, the children used to play a game with their father, Rav Chaim Kanievsky. They would ask him the topic, and then they would ask him, so you tell us, Ab, Tati, Abba, where is it? And he said that Rav Chaim always would come up with all the same sources that were in this book, plus even more than that. So you have a man who spent his life in diligence of Torah, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the special siyata d'shemaya. Now everybody on their own level, that means anyone that will put in the time and will put in the effort to learn, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give them special siyata d'shemaya on their madrega, on their level as well. And we'll end off over here with a beautiful idea that he says. Everybody knows the famous Gemara in Erevin that says that there was a Rebbe named Rabbi Preda, and he had a Talmud, he had a student who was not so bright. And he had to teach that student 400 times every piece of Torah that they learned together. So imagine what it means to be a Rebbe that's teaching, and you're Talmud Chacham extraordinaire. You could be teaching the best students in all of Klal Yisrael, and yet every single day, you have a student that walks in, he doesn't understand anything you say until you teach it 400 times. And he did it every day. One day he walks in, and he was on his way to go do a mitzvah. Preda was on his way to go do an important mitzvah. And he walked in, and he was a little bit, in a rush. And he said to the student, he says, come, we have to learn. I'm on my way to do an important mitzvah. I have to leave soon. So they sit down to learn 1 time, 5 times, 20 times, 100 times, 300 times, 400 times. He says, okay, to his Talmud, okay, now you got it? No, not today. What's going on over here? He said, I apologize, Rabbi. When you walked in, I saw that you were like in a rush, and you said that you have to go and take care of some special mitzvah. I thought that you're going to get up any minute and you're going to leave and you're going to walk out of the room. So I couldn't concentrate the whole time that we were learning 400 times. I'm sorry. So the Freire sat back down and he said, okay, Nochama, let's go again. And he spent another 400 times teaching the Talmud. And then 400 times he said, now you have it? And he said, yes, now I have it. So the Gemara says over there that a bas kol, a heavenly voice, rang out in Shemayim. And it said, Reb Freire, would you like 400 extra years added to your life? Or would you like that you and your generation should merit Olam Haba, the world to come? So Freire said, I want that me and my generation should merit Olam Haba, the world to come. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, give them both. He only thought about everybody else. He didn't think about the 400 extra years of his life. Give them both. Asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Gevaldige Kasha. Reb Freire taught the Talmud, the student, an extra 400 times. But what about the student who's learned an extra 400 times? And what does it mean to be a Talmud? A student has to learn every single day, 400 times, every day to understand what's going on. So why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu give a special reward to the student as well? Because he pushed himself that extra 400 times to learn and to understand what it said in the Torah. Says in Chaim a fascinating thing. So Rav Freire was the Rebbe. He was from the Gedolei Ador. He was the greatest sage of all time. He could have walked into any yeshiva. He could have become a Rosh Yeshiva any place. He could have picked the cream of the crop, the elite of all the students of Klal Yisrael, and he could have taught them. He didn't have to teach this student, but he took it upon himself to impart the words of Torah over to this Talmidim that were weaker and that were less, and they needed more chizuk and more TLC in their learning. And then when the student couldn't figure it out after 400 times, he had no chiv to teach him, no obligation. But Reb Freire took it upon himself. He's going to teach him an extra 400 times. He went beyond the letter of the law. But says Chaim Kanievsky, the student has an obligation to learn Torah. Everybody has a chiyuv to learn Torah, an obligation to learn Torah in their life. Whatever you need to do in your life to learn Torah, that's what you're obligated to do. If you could chap what the Rebbe is saying after one time, so that's your chiyuv to learn Torah. If it takes you 5 times, it takes you 5 times. If it takes you 400 times, like this student Rebbe Freire, that's his obligation. He wasn't doing anything more than he was obligated to do already. Of course, he's going to get a lot of schar, a lot of reward for all the effort that he put in, because we know lefum tzara agra, the more effort that you have to expend, the greater the reward is going to be. But in terms of getting special rewards from Shemayim, 400 years of your life, where your generation goes into Olam Haba, says Reb Chaim, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, which is learning Torah, each person according to their kishroina, as to how their brain and their mind works, what they're able to understand, that is the minimum standard obligation that a person has to learn the Torah the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made them in such a way. So as we are moving through the Sphere Ha'omer, and we are coming closer and closer to Shavuos, which itself is a day of Maimon Har Sinai, when Klal Yisrael received the Torah, we try to be mechazik ourselves during these 7 weeks in our own personal learning. And as we see, everybody has a chiyuv, everybody has an obligation. Does it take you 5 times or 400 times? Doesn't really matter. However many times it takes, that's how we're obligated to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah, to show him that we hold. Ki lekach toiv nesati lechem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I can't give you anything greater than the Torah al ta'azoivu. Please don't leave it, don't abandon it, because the greatest thing in the world, that the Klal Yisrael has the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us. We should be zeicher to learn starker during these weeks leading up to Shavuos, and in that way we'll be standing by Har Sinai to be makabel the Torah be'ez Hashem.